What's up out there, man? It's your boy HP, Pastor Harold Pierce Jr. I am the young adult pastor of the Greater Life Church. And hey, I am glad to check back in with you one more time. I know it's been a minute, a couple weeks, but sometimes life happens and you have to roll with the punches. All right. But listen, we've been engaging in our relational intelligence series, and today is no different, right? So we've gone through part one, where we dealt with categorizing people, whether they are friends, associates, advisors, or assignments, not particularly in that order, but you get the picture. And part two is dealing with so far we've dealt with reflection, and today we'll deal with category two of part two, which is evaluation. All right, so let's hop into it. So with evaluation, let's start out by reading this scripture. Check this out. It says, "Every good tree bears good fruit, but a bad tree bears bad fruit. A good tree cannot bear bad fruit, and a bad tree cannot bear good fruit. Every tree that does not bear good fruit is cut down and thrown into the fire. Thus, by their fruit, you will recognize them." With evaluation, Dr. Darius Daniels, in his book Relational Intelligence, he calls this fruit inspection. He goes on to say, if Jesus says we should recognize people by their fruit, then he is encouraging us to actually engage in an act of evaluation. Basically, if Jesus can evaluate folks, we can too. He says, while reflection, in the last video, while reflection is an internal exercise, evaluation or fruit inspection is an external exercise. It is the act of inspecting the fruit of the people in one's relational circle and determining what category the fruit qualifies them for. Stay with me. This exercise should not be confused with making judgments about one's character. Rather, it is evaluating your personal experience with an individual and determining what that means and says to you. For example, think about maybe the last conversation you had with someone, or even a person that's new to your circle, or somebody that you've been engaging with for a little while. Think about how that last conversation went. How did it make you feel? What did y'all talk about, right? And after that conversation, did you feel like, okay, could this be a friend? Could this be an associate? Could this be somebody that I'm mentoring or advising, or vice versa? Right. So this is what evaluation is. Right. So but in order to evaluate, guess what? In order to be a fruit inspector, we have to ask the right questions. Right. We must ask the right question. Questioning, he says, is one of the key ways we get the right clarity to make the right decisions. Right questions give us the right clarity. Good questions give us good clarity. When clarity becomes greater, decisions become easier. Y'all, it is so hard to make sound decisions with a foggy mindset. We have to ask good and right questions to be able to determine the right judgment and how to move forward with our evaluations. One main question is this: where am I? Before you can evaluate someone else, it's critical for you to know where you are. Where am I emotionally, spiritually? If we cannot locate ourselves, it will be hard to determine where we want a relationship to go. That's important. You can't really tell what you want or where you're going until you really tune in to yourself, right? If we don't know where we are or where we want to go, we won't know who is supposed to go with us. Sometimes we move too fast and the wrong folk is on the bus. Straight like that, right? A good second question is, what do I need? Okay. Where am I and what do I need? There are frequent seasons, right, when you may need different things, right? And sometimes we need healthy distractions, right? So if you are a person that works all the time, right, you don't want to set yourself up to find enjoyment with a person that's going to talk about work all the time. Not to say that they are a bad person, but in this season, you're trying to disconnect from work so you can be free to enjoy life just a tad bit. Not to say that the other person is bad, but you are analyzing and evaluating what do you need in this season. He says, I'm in a season where I'm incredibly busy. I have the tendency to be high-strung and overly engaged in work-related activity. I can answer the second question, what do I need? With I need people in my life who add value and who are able to pull me out of the seductive web of work. Exactly what I just said, just not as smart, right? Here we go. So you got to put some thought into it. People often speak in a general sense, right? But we have to learn to be very specific with what do I need. Like you can't just say I need good people. No, what do you need from the good people, right? So we have to be specific in identifying our needs. Third question. So not only where am I, secondly, what do I need, but also what do I have? All right. To address how a relationship has evolved, we must consider what a person is giving us today. Yes, he says this. This sounds a little selfish. It sounds one-sided. But he says, let me encourage you to see this another way. It's not about being self-centered. It's about stewardship. You must be a good steward of your life and be clear relationally on what you need. So once you examine these questions, you will need to draw some conclusions from your answers. If you aren't getting what you need at all, why is that the case? If you're getting a little of what you need, it is possible you have people in the wrong places in your life. So they're not the wrong people in your life. You just have them on the wrong seat in the bus, right? This will lead to the final question. It's the last question. What do I need to do? So after all of that, you say, does somebody need to be realigned? Does somebody need to be removed? Does someone else need to be pursued? Those are good. Those are good. So check this out. So when you are evaluating, one thing that we also need to do is avoid judgment, right? So he says the dictionary has a number of different definitions for the word judgment. Mainly, it's the process of forming an opinion or evaluation by discerning and comparing. When we think of judgment in our religious perspective, it often has a negative connotation. It does. Why are you judging me? No. But judgment in the way it's actually defined isn't at its core a negative thing. Stay with me. He says, if we view judgment as the process of forming an opinion or evaluation by discerning or comparing, then in truth, we're making judgments all the time. That's facts. In forming an opinion about whether I like the food, the clothes, the room, the car, right? Judgment in the religious sense of the word, it means something very different, okay? Because check this out. When it comes to the religious side, only God is in the position to make those kinds of judgments and render that type of verdict about a person, about the person's future and his destiny. We are not in position to do that. We're only making an opinion or evaluation by discerning or comparing. It's opinion, right? But we do not want to do what we do want to do what the dictionary suggests, which is to go through the process of forming an opinion and then deciding how to proceed based off what we've discerned. We aren't pronouncing someone good or bad just because they can no longer be our friend. We are simply deciding based on their actions and character what's best for our lives. The kind of judgment necessary in this process is about forming an opinion about whether this person is good for you now, not forming an opinion about whether this person is good at all. That's good. There is a difference. You're not throwing shade towards this person. You are simply deciding on if this person is a fit for where God is taking you and for what you're trying to do. You're not casting them out. You're just evaluating and putting them in their proper place. All right. Now, also, we avoid judgment, but we also want to never dishonor the tree, meaning this. You can inspect someone's fruit without dishonoring the whole tree. In fact, we can inspect someone's fruit without damaging or sabotaging the relationship that has been built. In other words, you don't have to tear a person down just because they don't fit in this season of life. You can still love them, all of that. A person may be an associate, and we may not have the relational equity to say some of the same things to them about what we observe that we would say to a friend. So I can say certain things to my best friend that I couldn't say to someone that I'm just barely meeting, right? So you have to know how far your influence goes, right? Or a person may be an advisor, and we may not have the emotional equity to say something to an advisor that we would say to an assignment. We should always consider the necessity of our words before moving forward either way. Think before you say, right? So inspecting a person's fruit should include honoring them, show some love and respect, right? We should do the best we can in this regard because we're imperfect. Our inspection will, of course, be imperfect. There may be times when we misinterpret information or when we haven't evaluated something as thoroughly as we should have. If we speak irresponsibly we can cause harm to the person. We can dishonor them and damage the relationship. This is why reflection is the step before evaluation. Reflect on what's happening on the inside of you before you move forward with the evaluation. Also, it's always good to show grace. So we don't judge, we don't dishonor, and we always show grace. Because listen, we have areas in our life that we have to grow into, right? And just because a person doesn't fit now doesn't mean that they won't fit later. So we have to show grace. And he says this, the fruit that someone is bearing, like right now, is not always a reflection of the person they are becoming. I love that. Just because a person is not bearing the good fruit now doesn't mean that they're going to bear bad fruit later. God is transforming all of us, and we have to be patient and show grace because you may be in that very same seat where you need grace as well. So, and so what we have to do oftentimes, we have to allow the Holy Spirit to be our navigator when it comes to these things. Yes, some of it is, white and black, factual, etc., but oftentimes God will pull on our heart and say, you know what? I believe at the core this person could be a good friend for you, but right now it's just not the season to fully dive in. Or this person could be a good advisor, or you may need to advise this person, but maybe just not right now. So we got to show grace, right? Here it is. It says these kinds of relationships in the meantime must be navigated with what? Grace. Obviously, we need to set some boundaries so that nothing dysfunctional, at least that we can't control, ends up destroying our lives. Yes, we need grace to recognize that our own growth and development has adversely affected other people too. That's right. We're not so perfect. It happens in a marriage, as a parent, with friends, and many environments. Here we go. When someone drops the ball, someone has got to pick it up. But wisdom, here it is found in knowing a temporary fumble is not the same as a continuous string of inconsiderate and willfully selfish behavior. That's good, y'all. Everybody fumble every now and then. So when you are evaluating and reflecting, keep grace in mind. Let God be your lead as you deal with the facts. But God's pull should be greater than anything else, right? He will lead you. He will guide you. This has been part 2 of category 2, evaluation. Next time we'll do part 2, category 3, which will be clarification. So we go reflection, evaluation, and next up, clarification. Until then, peace.